Hello, everybody, and thank you for watching our recording today. The topic is going to be the ins and outs of course sharing, which is a very interesting topic area. Denise and I were just talking before we hit record, because it encompasses so many things, from the technical aspects of sharing a course, the how-to part of it on eClass, all the way to intellectual property, and even into things like open educational resources and master course sharing. So we're going to dabble in each of those today just to kind of give a well-rounded idea of this topic. And of course, if you have any questions after watching, you can certainly reach out to my office, Digital Learning and Instructional Design Services, or Denise in the library. For those of you who may not know me or are new to the Mount, my name is Kayla Gori, and I am an instructional designer at the college. This is my 10th year with the college, and so I've seen a lot of the progression in this topic area and the general topic of online learning at the college. So I have that to offer, and I'll allow Denise to introduce herself.
Thank you, Kayla. Yes, I'm Denise Garofalo. I'm a librarian here at the Kaplan Family Library at the Mount, and I've been here since 2008, and I certainly have seen changes in how we've done things with online learning. But I'm going to turn it back to Kayla because she's the one leading our parade.
Okay, so we'll get right into it. Before we started today, I think Denise and I came up with some good ideas. Just move this out of the way. On 4 different areas that I think will help us have some well-rounded topics to cover in this topic. So the first one is sort of the more technical how-to, right? And this is sort of having to do with more my office than Denise, but a lot of instructors will often come to us from all different schools and divisions and wonder how they can share access to a course on eClass. And this happens for a multitude of reasons. There might be times where an instructor is no longer teaching that course and a new instructor may be adopting it. And that previous instructor simply wants them to have access to the old materials so that they can see what they provided to students on eClass in the past. This could be for a traditional course. It doesn't necessarily have to be an online course or a hybrid course. It could definitely be even a traditional course that's offered in person and is using eClass even as a supplement to instruction in the classroom. So that is one part of sharing access. Now, within that access, there's different things that you are able to do in terms of what your new user, we'll call them, can see in your course. Whether they're a TA, there are some classes that have TAs, whether they're just a colleague, like I mentioned, that is just simply wanting to see how you constructed the materials on eClass in the past. Depending on who they are and what the purpose is, would dictate the type of role or even restriction that they have to what they can see. So my office can assist all the faculty with navigating that. There are different roles that you can assign your new user. We'll just use that word user, or visitor, if you will, so that they don't have access to certain things that you feel that they don't need. Also, it's important to note that, of course, we have to be mindful of student information, right? So we have roles that will restrict those visitors from seeing grades of students in the past or personal student works. So that's all within the realm of something that my office can assist you in navigating. And certainly at any point, you could always reach out to our office if it seems unclear or you feel like you need some guidance in that area. The other part of sharing content or course sharing is actually giving a copy of your content to somebody. Now, this kind of bridges into the topic of intellectual property, which I will further expand upon later. But the process of sharing a copy of your eClass course can go through my office as well. We can assist with transferring your materials to another instructor. Now, that could range, again, from a simple quiz assignment. You want to share a quiz that you built with another instructor so that they can use it in their version of the course, or the entire breadth of the course, whatever you put on eClass last semester and you want to give them a physical copy of that to use for their own instruction. A lot of times this will happen again if you are not teaching the course anymore, or you've been assigned a different course, and somebody that you work with in your school or division is taking that over. Again, there might be a reason why you decide maybe access is appropriate, or even your division or school chair decides access is appropriate versus actually sharing a copy of all of that material. So again, that's something that you would navigate if it's a copy. A lot of times that's navigated within the division or school. They decide together with the chair that they would like to give a copy of that course. And then of course, my office can assist with the actual process of that, facilitating the process of that. There are some tricky instances. For example, I'll share one example. When an instructor is no longer working at the college, and you might be coming in to start teaching that course, but that instructor is no longer available to kind of grant permission or give you that access. That's where we work with the division chair, or even on occasions the VPAA, because there are intellectual property things to consider, and we want to make sure that we're following the best practices. So we have a process for that, and of course I can share that later on under the intellectual property guidelines section of what we'll talk about over the next few minutes. So the next topic is sort of shifting gears from the how to share things in eClass and what the differences are between accessing something and actually giving somebody a copy of it, to another aspect, which is the idea of using open educational resources in your course. This can be itemized, which is something that Denise can touch on, or it can mean requesting open materials that have been built by MSMC faculty, or subject matter experts, rather, I should say, in terms of master courses. And that can be something that I touch upon. But I'm going to allow Denise the reins, and she can give us some information about using open educational resources in your instruction. I'll stop screen sharing.
I am going to share a screen for you folks of a research guide that the library has on open educational resources. And they're resources that reside in the public domain. There's a variety of different types of access levels or licenses that different OER, open educational resources for short, have. And this guide is trying to bring the information, if you're unfamiliar with the term or what these resources are, to try to help you with this. On the side here, you can see where you can find them. There's subject specific ones. So if you're teaching business courses or whatever subjects, you can go in here and look for what OERs are already out there, how to create. There's a whole thing on understanding licenses, but I wanted to hop here on the copyright page because that kind of follows with the intellectual property thing, but also lets you see some of the resources we've gathered in regards to copyright and OERs. So you can see that there's 3 myths about copyright in the classroom, which brings you to a short little document. So if you're unsure of what copyright compliant is, or what the copyright symbol means, or what kinds of things you can borrow, that's available there. Some other resources that are here on the left regarding copyright and fair use. But in particular, Creative Commons, which has a whole website devoted to how you can determine what level of access you'd like to give to your materials and what materials you have access to, with an example of a license here. So there's a lot here. And in fact, there's even a whole page on understanding Creative Commons licenses and public domain. But this is all here on the Open Educational Resources guide, which just tries to gather together those resources to help you if you want to use resources that are out there around the world that are available in the public domain, so that you don't have to necessarily choose a textbook that your students are going to have to pay for. You can use something that's in the OER realm. Have I missed anything on there, Kayla?
No, I think that was a good basic introduction, right? The concept of OER is something that's not always familiar to some of our faculty. And I think some of the benefits of looking into that as an alternative in terms of online courses, at least, are that, the OER standpoint is one that, you can allow students the option to opt into different types of materials without a financial responsibility to it. It also gives the course a little bit of a longer shelf life, right? Wouldn't you agree, Denise,
Yes.
that when you use OER, you're not restricted by a publisher who might be changing the editions every year or so on and so forth, and then you would have to update a lot of your content. If you're using OER, they do have a little bit of a longer shelf life, and you can rearrange your materials per different needs of the course or changes in the field of study. So it gives you a little bit more flexibility in terms of those aspects. Yeah. Okay, so I guess I'll bridge into master courses, which is sort of something more unique that I can talk about to Mount St. Mary instructors. This is something, it's not unique to Mount St. Mary, I shouldn't frame it that way, but it's more what can you use that's already available to you at Mount St. Mary College. So at the Mount, and in terms of online courses, at least, we have master courses. And these are courses that have been developed under contract between a subject matter expert and the Office of Digital Learning and Instructional Design Services. At one point we were called distance education, and at one point we were called online learning. So you may see that wording used in different instances, but it's basically a process, a collaborative process between a subject matter expert and an instructional design team where they build a course together that will be delivered online. So of course, the content matter expert or subject matter expert is coming in and actually building the curriculum. They're saying, here are my learning objectives, here are the things that these students need to learn and how they'll be assessed. And the instructional design team comes in and finds ways to marry those learning objectives to how students can achieve that online. Whether it's through discussions, discussion forums or multimedia presentations or, online assessments, writing assignments, things of that nature. So we work in a collaborative process together to build out an online course. I think we have about 50 master courses now, which is pretty impressive. Yeah, we have about 50 over the last 12 to 13 years that we've built. There are some newer, right? And something that we are working on slowly through the last couple of years, and of course this has been impacted by the pandemic, is working with the original subject matter expert, if they're still around and willing to work with us on it, on updating some of the content, because we do have quite a few that were originally developed over 10 years ago. And, in the areas of social science and religion, philosophy, and some of those type of subject areas, it's not as time sensitive, right? Because the content isn't going to change that much. But in the areas of business or education, nursing, natural science, a lot of those types of courses are ever evolving. So the content needs to be updated, right? So we have been working with some of the subject matter experts that were the original course developers. A lot of the times they are our full-time faculty members, not always, but sometimes. We're trying to work with them to brush those courses up so that we can use them, because the pandemic has taught us, right, that we need to have things readily available and ready to use and with as least barriers as possible. And master courses can really help us with that in terms of online courses, at least, or hybrid even. So like I said, we do have newer ones that were developed within the last 5 years and need much less work. And the benefit, which I haven't even mentioned yet, of using a master course is that they are open to all of our faculty members. So anybody who is teaching a course can either talk to their division or school chair or contact my office and see if a master course can be shared with them in that content. We have content on under every subject almost, but there are courses that we don't have. So it would just be a question of if the course that you are teaching has already pre-designed content for online delivery. And the benefit, of course, is usually, there are a lot of times that instructors are assigned to teach a course within a couple weeks of the semester beginning, and they have to design something right away. So the benefit of having a master course is that you have somewhere to start at least. You have a fully designed course, but if it's handed to you to teach, we'll give you a copy of the master course and you can design it for your needs. You can use that as sort of a jumping off point. Or if you think it's great and you want to keep it just the way it is, you can just simply use it to teach the course. So you have a lot of options there. I will say that if you're coming from particularly the School of Nursing, the School of Business, Social Sciences, those are the subject areas that we have most of our master courses in. We have a few arts and letters, and we have some graduate level education. We do not have many in the natural science simply because those courses are not typically taught online at the Mount. I'm trying to think if I'm missing anything. Math and IT, we have a few. So it would just be a question of just reaching out and seeing what's available, because it's sort of the idea of why recreate the wheel, right? When you have something that you can use, or at least get you started, if you're teaching online here or hybrid at least, or even if not, even if you are teaching a traditional course and you kind of just want to get an idea of how a different instructor might have looked at that material and constructed that course, just to get some perspective. We have these courses available and open to all our MSMC faculty. So certainly if it's something that sounds interesting to you, reach out and we can share those with you and have a conversation about how they can be used for your purposes and your instruction. So I think the last part of what we can cover today is sort of the intellectual property guidelines that I kind of brushed over in the first 2 points when it came to course sharing, how we manage and navigate that process. So I'll share my screen again and I'll pull up a document that I can share with anybody who's watching. Just send me an email if you feel it's something you would like to look into further. And it just helps our office and also the instructors or the chairs that are involved in these process navigate that with the best practices in mind. So I'll pull that up for us now. Okay, Denise, you can see my screen, right? Okay, just want to make sure. So again, we have two sort of umbrellas, right? We have the requesting access to an e-class course that may not be yours. And then we have the instance where you may want to share materials with another instructor so that they can use those materials for their own. So when we talk about requesting course access, we obviously understand that there are a lot of times where an instructor may need to access somebody else's course. The process that entails typically means that it begins with the person who taught the course last. So we request at least that that person, if they are available, contacts us to say they would like for so-and-so to have access to their course. We also usually will ask, unless you've told us already, what role you would like that person to have. So to quickly cover those roles, we have the role of teacher, which allows them to fully have access to the entire course. And that would mean grades as well. All student works, grades that you may have in your e-class gradebook. Let me be clear about that. If you're not using the e-class gradebook or you didn't in this particular course, of course, that wouldn't be a concern. But if you had, that's something to keep in mind, because we want to make sure that if that's not relevant or if it's not necessary, that you maintain that confidentiality. So that role of teacher is going to give them all the access that you have, editing access, as well as access to student works and any grades that you might have inputted into the gradebook. Then within that role, there are subset roles. We have the non-editing teacher role with grade view, which means that they can't make any changes to your content as a viewer, but they can see grades. And then we have the non-editing teacher without grade view, which would simply mean that they have access to look at it from a teacher's perspective, but cannot make any changes to that content and cannot access the student gradebook. So again, it's something a little tricky to navigate, and our office does this quite often. So we're prepared to help, and we're prepared to help you navigate what the best situation may be for your circumstances. So certainly reach out to us and we can guide you in that process. If it happens that the instructor is no longer with the college and you are somebody coming in and adopting the course and you simply want to access what was left behind, we would ask that you work with your school or division chair, and if they need to involve the VPAA for whatever reason, to allow us to share that with you. Okay, we don't have the ability to just give away things without that layer of understanding and intellectual property respect. So we want to make sure that we have that layer there to make sure that what we're doing as an office is within the realm of the best practices within intellectual property. Now, let me switch gears to when you have a course and you want to give a copy of your content to another instructor. So again, a lot of the times this will happen when you are no longer teaching the course and you just want to say, the person that will be taking over this course can have everything that I built prior. We also request in this instance that you, as the content owner, request that that copy of the course gets shared. And again, there is a distinction between allowing that access, which is what I just covered before, and allowing a copy. So we just ask that you be super clear with what you would like, and so that there is no questions about whether you just want them to see it or whether you actually want them to have a copy of that. So let me just make sure I didn't skip over anything important. Oh, of course I did. So the caveat, I guess you could say, we would like all of this in writing, right? Again, it's to protect you. It's to protect the person that might be accessing the course or taking over the materials. It's simply out of respect for your intellectual property. And so instead of accepting it verbally and calling on the phone and saying, hey, Kayla, can you please allow so-and-so access to my course? We just ask that that always happens in email so that we have that written consent from you to allow us to share, okay? Again, it's for your protection, it's for everybody's protection and just respect of intellectual property. If you feel like this is just so confusing and just really just have a lot of questions, which it can be tricky because it's very influenced by, particular situations. It can be influenced by the topic area. There's a lot of different influences. So if you feel like you just need guidance in how to do this, navigate this, please feel free to reach out at any point, and we can certainly help you navigate the process of course sharing. Also, if you have questions about the master courses, what may be available to you, if you just want to take a peek, or if you just want to know if there's even something in your content area, just simply if there's a course out there that you could look at, simply just reach out to us. onlinelearning@msmc.edu is our email for our office, all one word, onlinelearning@msmc.edu. And Denise, is there anything else you'd like to add?
No, I think you've covered everything very well, Kayla. Thank you. I would say, if you do have questions about open educational resources, certainly reach out to myself or the library. We can help with some copyright questions if you have those. But other than that, that's all I've got.
Okay. Well, thank you, Denise, for joining me today and adding to the discussion. And again, if anybody has any questions, feel free to reach out to myself or Denise. Thank you, everybody.
Bye.